The story of the aircraft that attacked and vanished isn't just a military or geopolitical incident. It's a metaphor, a reflection of the hidden powers we often ignore within ourselves. Think for a moment: an aircraft, sleek, built for precision, enters hostile territory, delivers a calculated strike, and disappears without a trace. No one claims it, no one confirms it, no one explains it. But everyone feels it. That kind of power doesn't just shake governments or intelligence agencies, it shakes belief systems. And that's exactly what happens when an individual stops seeking permission to act and simply does what they were born to do. In life, most people are constantly on the radar, constantly waiting for acknowledgement, for validation, for someone to track their movement and say, "Yes, you're on the right path." But the truth is, those who create lasting impact are often untrackable in the beginning. They move without needing approval. They strike with focus, then retreat to build again in silence. The aircraft didn't announce itself. It didn't argue with air traffic control or engage in debates with media analysts. It acted, and its actions echoed across borders. This is the energy of a person who knows their power. They're not concerned with being seen at every step. They're not worried about who claps or who criticizes. They know that when the time comes to take action, real action, they will, and the ripple effect will be undeniable. That aircraft wasn't just built in a day. It was crafted in shadows, forged through testing, sharpened through setbacks. The same is true for human transformation. You don't wake up powerful. You build yourself in silence. You train your mind when no one's watching. You go to war with your doubts at 2 a.m. And then one day, when the world least expects it, you show up, strike with purpose, and leave the world questioning everything it thought it knew about you. So many people are obsessed with making noise, posting every thought, broadcasting every step, announcing every plan. But power is not in the noise. Power is in precision, in patience, in knowing the target, trusting your trajectory, and disappearing into execution. That aircraft didn't hover. It didn't circle for attention. It delivered, and it vanished, because real impact doesn't need explanation. It creates its own narrative. Most of us are conditioned to believe we must be constantly seen to be relevant, that progress must be public to be real. But the greatest transformations happen in the invisible realm, the mind, in the spirit, in the dark corners of discipline where no one applauds you. And then one day, just like that aircraft, you rise. You act, and people don't know what hit them. They don't see the version of you that was quietly being built all this time. They only see the results, the power, the presence, and they are left in silence. This metaphor goes deeper. Imagine the level of clarity required to fly into opposition undetected. That requires more than just skill. It demands internal mastery. The aircraft symbolizes more than just a tool of warfare. It represents the mindset of someone who's done the inner work, someone who's deleted the noise of fear, rejection, self-doubt, someone who no longer needs to be told they're capable because they already know. And that kind of person doesn't attack people. They attack limits, they destroy barriers, they erase timelines, they shatter the "you can't do that" narratives whispered by a world afraid of boldness. We live in an age where opinions fly louder than facts, where attention is confused with authority. But that aircraft didn't care for either. It cared only for the mission. You must become like that. Mission-driven, not opinion. Absorbed, not validation. Hungry, but purpose-rooted. Every time you move, do it with intent. Every time you act, do it with belief. And when the result shakes the ground, don't wait for the applause. Don't wait to be recognized. Disappear back into your craft. Let the world talk while you reload your potential. So many people get trapped because they want to be noticed more than they want to be effective. They want to be liked more than they want to grow. But effectiveness isn't loud. Growth isn't always glamorous, and power doesn't ask for attention. It earns it by the weight of its impact. That aircraft is a message to every person who's ever doubted themselves. You don't need to announce your greatness. You need to build it in silence. You need to develop a level of self-trust so unshakable that when it's time to act, you do, without delay, without fear, without needing the world to clap. The aircraft that attacked and vanished is more than a story, it's a standard, a reminder that the most unstoppable forces are often the ones the world didn't see coming. Because they were too busy building in silence, flying under the radar, preparing for a moment so precise, so perfect, that when it came there was no turning back. They moved, they delivered, and they left behind a silence so loud, it made the world rethink what's possible. Every no you've ever heard in your life carries weight, not because of what it denies you, but because of what it reveals about how you respond. Most people hear the word no and stop. They retreat. They accept it as a final verdict. But what if no was never meant to be a wall? What if it's a door that only opens when you decide not to walk away? The most powerful shift you'll ever make in your life is when you stop interpreting rejection as failure and begin to see it as redirection, an invitation to rise above your current frequency and align with something far greater than what you were aiming for. Think about it. Every single time someone told you no, what they were really saying was, you are stepping beyond the limits I believe are possible. They weren't measuring your potential. They were exposing their own. People don't say no to your dreams because they've analyzed your capabilities. They say no because your dreams make them uncomfortable, because your vision reminds them of the risks they were too afraid to take. And in that moment, their no becomes your opportunity to decide whether you will internalize their limitation or activate your determination. Imagine if every successful person had stopped at their first no. Innovation would collapse. Dreams would die before they ever breathed. But the difference between those who succeed and those who settle is not talent. It's how they interpret resistance. Some people hear no and build a case against themselves. They say, maybe they're right, maybe I'm not ready, maybe I'm not good enough. Others hear the exact same word and let it ignite something deeper. They say, watch me, I'll show you why this no was never yours to give. That's the turning point. That's the mental shift, and it doesn't come from reading motivational quotes or attending weekend seminars. It comes from living through it, from hearing no, feeling the sting of rejection, and deciding to rise anyway. Every no is a call to reframe your self-image, to break free from the mental prison that says your worth is determined by someone else's opinion. You are not here to get permission to live your purpose. You are here to remember that you were born with the right to create, to expand, to leave your mark. Think of the most defining moments in your life. Were they when things went smoothly, or were they when everything fell apart, when someone slammed the door in your face, when life told you no, in ways that felt cruel, final, and irreversible, yet somehow you kept going? And if you're still standing after all of that, what makes you think another no has the power to stop you now? The aircraft that vanished after attacking didn't wait for permission. It didn't stop midair to ask if the mission was valid. It didn't question its own capability just because the airspace was hostile. It acted with precision because it had clarity. The world said, you can't, but the aircraft did. And then it disappeared, leaving everyone in shock. That's the energy you need to carry. Not loud, not boastful, but certain, because when you carry certainty, every no becomes irrelevant. You weren't born to be average. You weren't meant to play small so others feel comfortable. Every time you step toward your vision, you are going to encounter resistance. That's not a sign you're off track, it's proof you're getting closer. No one blocks a person who's not a threat. No one says you can't. To someone who's not doing something worth watching, the very fact that you're facing rejection means you're pushing against the edges of possibility. And that is where transformation lives. The world is designed to test you. Systems, structures, society, all of it is set up to reward conformity and punish deviation. So when you rise up and say, I'm going to do it differently, expect the world to push back. That pushback will come in the form of no. No from your peers, no from your mentors, no from the gatekeepers, no from the voice in your own head that still thinks it needs permission. But that voice isn't telling the truth. It's just repeating an old program, one that was built by fear, nurtured by doubt, and kept alive by inaction. You don't need to silence that voice. You need to overpower it with action. The more you act in spite of fear, the weaker that voice becomes. And eventually, the word no won't even register as rejection. It will register as fuel, as feedback, as a signal that you are no longer asking for approval. You are claiming your space. When you reach that level, no becomes just another word. It loses its sting. It can't shake your foundation anymore because your identity is no longer built on the fragile opinions of others. You are not here to avoid no. You are here to outgrow it, to walk through every door it tried to close, to rewrite your story in a way that even you didn't expect. Because when your mindset shifts, your world shifts, and suddenly every rejection, every delay, every closed door starts to look less like an obstacle and more like part of the architecture of your breakthrough. Negative emotions are not the enemy. They are signals, raw, potent indicators that there is something inside of you that needs to be understood, redirected, and transformed. But most people don't learn to master them. They let the emotions fly the plane. They let anger crash their relationships, fear paralyze their progress, guilt chain them to the past, and shame keep them from expressing who they really are. Emotion is fuel, but fuel without direction is dangerous. It either propels you forward or burns everything down. The key is in how you manage it, how you choose to navigate the turbulence within, rather than letting it dictate the direction of your life. We're told to suppress negative feelings, to bury them, to smile when we feel like screaming. But that doesn't make the feeling disappear, it just pushes it deeper into the subconscious, where it festers and grows. That's why so many people find themselves exploding without warning, snapping in situations that don't warrant such intensity, or withdrawing from life altogether. The truth is, emotion is energy in motion. It demands movement. It requires release. And if you don't release it constructively, it will release itself destructively. The aircraft that attacked and vanished didn't let emotion lead the mission. It was built for clarity, designed for precision. Every movement, every trajectory, every decision was calculated, not driven by chaos, but by control. That's how your mind must operate, because when emotion clouds your vision, you lose accuracy. You might fire in the wrong direction, abandon the mission midway, or worse, never even take off. Emotional mastery isn't about being numb. It's about channeling your feelings into focused momentum. Imagine for a moment that your life is a cockpit. Your thoughts are the controls. Your beliefs are the navigation system. Your emotions are the fuel. Now ask yourself, who's flying the plane? If fear is in control, you'll never leave the ground. If anger takes over, you might take off fast, but you'll crash hard. If self-doubt holds the yoke, You'll circle the same patterns forever and never reach your destination. But when you take the controls, when you acknowledge the emotion without surrendering to it, you begin to fly with purpose. You rise above the clouds of confusion, and you move in a straight line toward what you were always meant to become. People often try to eliminate negative emotions entirely, thinking they're toxic or unnatural. But emotion isn't the problem, mismanagement is. You can't pretend to be fearless while secretly running from every challenge. You can't fake confidence while constantly drowning in comparison. The real shift happens when you own the feeling, face it directly, and ask, "What is this trying to teach me?" Fear might be pointing to something you're ready to face. Anger might be signaling a boundary you haven't enforced. Sadness might be inviting you to let go of something you've outgrown. These emotions are messengers. Don't shoot them, decode them. The most powerful people on the planet are not those who feel nothing. They are the ones who have learned to feel everything without being consumed by it. They have trained themselves to transmute pain into power, rejection into redirection, uncertainty into curiosity. And that's not something you're born with, it's a discipline. You build it like a muscle, day by day, moment by moment. You become the kind of person who no longer reacts. You respond, you pause, you reflect. You choose your next move with intelligence, not impulse. Emotional mastery is also spiritual maturity. It's realizing that how you feel isn't always aligned with what is true. Just because you feel like giving up doesn't mean it's time to quit. Just because you feel inadequate doesn't mean you're not qualified. Emotions are data, not destiny. They are weather patterns, not the sky itself. And just like a skilled pilot learns to fly in storms, you must learn to move forward even when your internal world feels unstable. That is the difference between those who succeed long term and those who peak quickly and fall. It's not who feels better, it's who handles emotion better. There's also a silence to this power. Just like the aircraft that attacked and vanished, emotional mastery often happens in the dark. It happens when no one sees you crying, but you still show up the next day. It happens when you're overwhelmed, but refuse to let it shape your decisions. It happens when someone disrespects you, and instead of retaliating, you elevate. There's dignity in restraint, there's power in composure, and when you learn to be calm in chaos, people start to see you differently. They may not know what changed, but they'll feel the difference in your presence. You've become unmoved by noise, untouched by drama, unshaken by outcomes, and the more you operate from this place, the more unstoppable you become, because people who can't control their emotions are easy to predict and easy to manipulate. But when you rise above that level of reactivity, when you train your nervous system to breathe through the discomfort, when you no longer flinch in the face of judgment or fear or pressure, you reclaim full control of the cockpit. Now you decide the mission. Now you decide when to rise, when to strike, when to retreat, and when to vanish back into stillness, because real power doesn't yell. It moves silently, strategically, just like that aircraft. No need for noise, no craving for attention, just motion, just precision, just results. Destiny is not something handed to you like a gift wrapped in gold paper. It is something you must claim with intention, commitment, and unshakable belief. Most people live under the illusion that destiny is a matter of luck, of privilege, of external forces aligning perfectly in their favor. They wait, they wish, they hope the universe will tap them on the shoulder and say, "It's your turn now." But that moment never comes, because that's not how destiny works. Destiny doesn't respond to passivity. It responds to ownership. It doesn't answer to hesitation. It submits only to those who rise, declare their direction, and refuse to be moved off course. The aircraft that attacked and vanished didn't ask for clearance from the world. It didn't wait for conditions to be perfect, skies to be clear, or opinions to be supportive. It didn't need applause or permission. It had a target, it had intent, and it executed the mission without noise, without approval, without the need to be seen. That's the exact mindset you must adopt if you ever want to step into the life that calls you from within. You don't need confirmation. You don't need consensus. You need clarity and the courage to act on it. You see, most people are not held back by their circumstances. They are held back by their conditioning. From an early age, we are taught to follow rules, to play safe, to take the predictable path. We are programmed to believe that success belongs to the chosen few, to those with connections, status, or timing. But none of that defines destiny. Destiny is a choice backed by relentless action. It is born the moment you stop negotiating with your potential and start living as though the outcome is non-negotiable. You don't claim destiny by accident. You don't stumble into greatness. You build it moment by moment, decision by decision, in the way you think, speak, and move. Every thought you think is a vote for the future you're creating. Every action you take is a message to the universe that says, I know who I am and I'm not backing down. When you carry yourself with that kind of certainty, the world starts to shift around you, not because the world changes, but because you do. Destiny is not some far off moment in the future waiting to greet you. It is built right now, in how you respond to difficulty, in what you choose to believe when no one else does, in the way you discipline your mind when fear tries to take over. It is earned in silence, carved through adversity, tested through resistance, and when you truly commit to it, you stop living like a question mark. You stop entertaining the idea that you might fail. You start to act like someone who already knows the end of the story, someone who moves with purpose because they've already seen the outcome in their imagination. That's the difference between people who play life and those who dominate it. Those who play life are always reacting, always waiting for the right moment, the right sign, the right conditions. But those who claim their destiny create the moment. They decide that now is the time. They don't look at obstacles as dead ends. They treat them as data, as challenges to refine their vision. Their identity isn't built on what others say. They carry an inner authority so strong that the world has no choice but to adjust. There's something powerful that happens when you stop chasing destiny like it's running from you and start acting like it's already yours. Your language changes. You stop saying I hope and start saying I will. You stop saying someday and start saying now. You stop shrinking in rooms where you feel small and begin to stand tall because you know the room does not define your worth. You do. When you look at that aircraft again, consider this. It didn't leave a trace because it didn't need to be remembered for the noise it made. It's remembered for the impact it delivered. That is how destiny works. It's not about fame. It's not about attention. It's about precision. It's about delivering results so clear, so undeniable, that even in your silence, the world cannot ignore what you've done. This is what separates the average from the exceptional. The average hope, wish, and wait. The exceptional act, declare, and deliver. You don't need to know every step of the journey. You just need to trust that the destination is already written, and then act like it. You must carry yourself as if you've already arrived, because your destiny responds to belief long before it responds to evidence. Evidence comes later. It comes when the seeds you've planted in private begin to bloom in public. But you don't get that harvest unless you first take ownership. Not one day, not someday, today, Right now, in your thoughts, in your choices, in the way you walk into every room like someone who refuses to be ordinary. And once you make that shift, once you truly internalize that destiny is claimed, not granted, everything starts to change. You begin to realize that the life you want is not waiting for you to earn it. It's waiting for you to step into it. Not with arrogance, but with authority. Not with doubt, but with certainty. Because your destiny isn't out there somewhere. It's within you, waiting for you to wake up to the truth of who you are and finally decide that enough is enough. That now is the time, that nothing will stand between you and what you've been called to do. Your mind is the true battlefield. Not the economy, not the government, not the competition, not your family, not your circumstances. Your mind. Everything that will ever try to stop you begins there. Before a challenge appears in the physical world, it first takes shape as a thought, a whisper in your head, a flicker of doubt that says, "You're not ready, you're not good enough, this is too much for you, you're going to fail." And if you don't take control of that thought the moment it arises, it multiplies. It becomes a belief. That belief becomes a habit, and that habit becomes your life. That's why mastering the battlefield of your mind is not optional. It is essential. Most people are prisoners of their own minds, and they don't even know it. They live within mental fences constructed by years of conditioning, fear, failure, and opinions they never questioned. They obey the rules of limitation handed down to them by voices from the past, parents who meant well but were scared, teachers who told them to play safe, peers who laughed at their dreams, systems that reward mediocrity and punish individuality. Over time, those voices become internalized. They become the enemy within. You start to believe the lie that your current reality is your permanent one. But your reality is not set in stone. It's set in thought. And thought can be changed. It doesn't matter what tools or resources you have if you haven't learned how to think like a warrior. It doesn't matter how much talent or opportunity is placed in front of you if your mind tells you you're not worthy of it. That's why people with far less intelligence, fewer connections, and limited backgrounds often rise to the top. Because they refuse to lose the inner war. And that war is won not by avoiding fear, but by facing it with discipline and intention. You don't get stronger by pretending the battlefield doesn't exist. You get stronger by entering it daily, prepared, focused, and grounded. Your thoughts are weapons. Every day, you are either using them against yourself or for yourself. Every thought that reinforces fear, scarcity, doubt, or victimhood is an attack on your own potential. Every thought that declares belief, purpose, and courage is a weapon pointed toward your future. The difference between staying stuck and rising lies in what thoughts you feed. Most people are walking around with a mind full of hostile energy, memories of past failures, guilt, unresolved emotions, insecurities, and they wonder why nothing seems to shift. It's not the world resisting you, it's your own mind blocking the path. The aircraft that attacked and vanished did not second, guess itself. It did not hesitate. It was locked in. Target acquired, purpose known, emotions contained, and the mission completed without allowing the noise of the outside world to interfere. That's how your mind must operate if you want to do something remarkable. Lock in, eliminate distraction, recognize the difference between the truth and the noise. The truth is you're powerful, the noise says you're not. The truth is you're capable, the noise says you need more time. The truth is you were born for greatness. The noise wants you to settle for survival. And until you silence that noise, You'll always feel like you're fighting something invisible. The greatest leaders, creators, visionaries, and change makers all have one thing in common. They mastered their inner environment. They learned how to think with clarity under pressure, how to calm their mind in chaos, how to direct their emotions rather than be directed by them. You don't need to have all the answers. You just need to think in alignment with where you want to go. Your mind is not just a container for memory. It is the engine of your future. Every belief you install either fuels the fire of your potential or puts it out. No one else can do this work for you. You can read the books, watch the videos, listen to the speeches. But until you step onto the battlefield of your own mind, face the limiting beliefs head on, and decide to rewrite them with relentless repetition, nothing truly changes. You can change the clothes, the city, the job, the circle, but if the mind remains the same, the results will eventually return to the same level, because your outer world is a reflection of your inner standard. And that standard is set in the mind. You can walk into any room and command it, not by being loud, but by being centered. You can face any adversity, not because you're fearless, but because you've trained your mind to remain focused even when the ground shakes. You can build, create, rise, not because you've been given permission, but because you've claimed authority over the one thing no one can ever take from you, your thoughts. This is not about motivation, it's about mental strategy. Winning the inner war is about understanding that discipline is freedom, focus is power, and belief, genuine, unbreakable belief, is the strongest weapon you'll ever possess. Stop looking outward for victory. Start looking inward for alignment. Start monitoring your thoughts the way a pilot checks every system before takeoff. Scan for fear, for doubt, for hesitation, and replace them with intentional beliefs that support your mission. Guard your mind like the control center of everything you will ever do, because it is. No goal is achieved outside of mental clarity. No dream is fulfilled without internal consistency. You must decide that the war is over the moment you choose to think differently. The moment you declare that the old story ends here, that a new version of you is emerging, stronger, wiser, focused, unshakable, not because the world gave you anything, but because you decided to master the battlefield where all success begins.